Hey everyone, it's Ryan. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make these dinner rolls. All right, to start off with, I have 1 tablespoon of active dry yeast in this little bowl. And if you're using the little packets, that's about 1.5 packets. So we want to get our yeast going. So I have a half a cup of warm water that I just got from the sink. You don't want it to be too hot. You just want it to be warm. So I'm going to take a fork and just mix up that yeast. And we're going to set this off to the side and let it do its thing. It should start to get foamy and bubble up. So set that off to the side. We want to make sure that our yeast is alive so that our bread is going to actually work. If you come back to your yeast and nothing has happened, or it hasn't like gotten fluffy and bubbled up quite a bit, get rid of it and start that part over because your yeast is likely not good. So now in our big bowl for our stand mixer, I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of sugar. And I do have this measured out because one of the viewers asked if I could give measurements in grams. So this is 1/3 of a cup, or around 2.8 ounces, or around 80 grams of granulated sugar. Then I have 1 cup of warm milk. And then we're going to add 1 egg. And I should have done that in a different bowl, but luckily I found the shell. I'm going to wash my hands. Okay. Now we're going to do 1 tablespoon of oil, and this is just vegetable oil. And then 1 tablespoon of honey. I know that I already added some sugar, but we're going to add a little honey to this as well. And I did the oil first so that it comes out of my measuring spoon better. Okay, so now we're going to take a fork, get all that mixed up. Okay. Now I forgot the salt. So I'm going to do, let me get a real measuring spoon. I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of salt. Mix that in. And now we're just going to wait to see if our yeast foams up. Honestly, I'm questioning if these packets of yeast were good, because it's not really doing much right now. So I'm going to give it a little bit and then I'll come back. All right. So the yeast has livened up a little. I'm trying to show you. It's nice and foamy. It did take it around 5 to 10 minutes to get like that. So we're going to go ahead and add that to our bowl. So in our bowl, we have the warm water, the yeast, the warm milk, honey, oil, sugar, and egg. So now I have 5 cups of flour, of all-purpose flour, which is around 1 pound, 11 ounces, or around 750 grams. So I'm going to go ahead and just slowly incorporate this so it doesn't go all over my counter. So I'm going to do a few spoonfuls there real quick and turn on my mixer and let that incorporate a little bit. Okay, I'm going to keep adding a little bit at a time, trying not to make a mess, but you all know that's likely not going to happen. My mom always makes bread rolls for most special occasions or holidays. Um, this isn't her recipe, but it's very similar. Um, so we have plenty of practice making these. You could make this into a loaf bread also if you wanted to, but I just prefer it in little rolls. And you could make special little butters, like if you wanted to do a honey butter or a cinnamon butter. Hopefully you can hear me with the mixer going, but I'm trying to do this in sort of real time so that you can see how quickly it does sort of come together at first. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it. Use a little spatula to get this off the sides because I am using this glass bowl for video purposes so you can see. Um, it's a little wider, so the paddles or this dough hook, they have a little trouble getting all the way to the sides, even with the paddle with the silicone edges. Turn it back on and let it come together. You can see it start to pull together in the bowl. It's becoming one ball instead of a bunch of like separate pieces. So now I'm going to add, a little bit more. And depending on, honestly, a lot of times it's depending on the weather, depending on where you are, your elevation, it may take more or less flour, not by a ton, but just know that if you feel like your dough has come together and you haven't added all of the flour that the recipe truly calls for, you might be done. Or if you add all of the flour and you still have a super sticky dough, you might need to add just a little bit more. So it's starting to dog down my mixer a little bit, so I'll turn it up a little and stop talking so I can speed through this. It's still a pretty sticky dough, so I'm just going to scrape everything off of the dough hook, get down on the bottom of the bowl, and I'm going to add one more spoon of flour and let it run a little longer. You'll know when the dough is really ready when it starts to pull away from the sides of the bowl and sort of it'll clean the bowl itself. So I don't know if you can tell it. Let me look. It's handy I have the watch and it shows the camera on here. So I don't know if you can exactly see it, but on the bottom it's starting to pull away from the side. And so it's not sticking to my finger very bad. You can see it is just a tiny bit, but I think this is going to be done. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and let the mixer run for about another minute, let it pull a little more off the sides, and then we'll put it on the counter and knead it a few times before we put it in a bowl to proof. All right, so it ran for about another minute, and I don't know if you can see it exactly, but I will show you as soon as I get this out of the bowl that it truly did clean the sides of the bowl pretty well. So now what you're gonna do is you're going to turn the dough out onto your counter. And it is sticking to me a little bit, but that's normal. It's not like a crazy sticky wet dough. And look at the amount of flour that we did not use. So it's very odd, but it depends on, like I said, depends on the weather, depends on where you live. Where I'm from in Illinois, I feel like when me and my mom make it, we always have to end up adding more flour, or yeah, more flour. But here, when I've made them and I've just gone ahead and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and add the full amount of flour because I know it normally takes more. Um, I end up with a super stiff, dense dough. And I have almost broke this bowl, this glass bowl on this mixer because it does get to be such a stiff dough. So we're just gonna knead it a few times out here. If it does seem a little too sticky to you while you're doing this, go ahead and put a little bit of flour on your work surface and knead that flour in. But I am perfectly fine with this because it's forming a great ball. So what I'm gonna do, stop doing that. I'm gonna get a large bowl. I'm gonna get some oil. I'm gonna grease the inside of this bowl. And I actually just found this out within the last month. We have lived in this house for going on 9 years, and I just learned that our oven has a proofing setting. So I have my oven set on the proofing setting. If you do not have an oven that has a proofing, how many times can I say proofing setting? Put this in a warm spot in your house, whether that's next to your stove, next to your oven, in front of a little heater. Make sure you don't put it on any kind of direct heat. Cover it with a towel. I'm probably going to cover mine with plastic wrap since it is going into the oven. And I've never used this setting before, so I don't want to set this on fire. So I'm going to do that. You want to leave it until it has doubled in size. Around an hour, hour and a half-ish, but keep checking on it because you don't want it to overproof or spill out of your bowl. So I'm going to do that, and then, yeah, I'll come back when that's done, and then we will start putting the dinner rolls together. Okay, someone just woke up from a nap, and of course, our bread is risen. So it is ready to be formed into the rolls, of course, everything at once. So I have just a sheet pan here lined with parchment. And then I'm also going to do some in a cupcake pan. I haven't done this in a while, but I do like doing this. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do some in here, some on here, and that way you kind of get a feel for what they could look like. And if you don't want to do them as rolls, you could do this just as, I think it would make probably like 1.5 of a normal sort of loaf pan size. So I'm going to get that out and we will start forming these. All right. As you can see, it very much doubled. So what we're going to do right now, actually, let me grab a little bowl and put some oil in it first. Okay, so I have just a little bowl here with some oil just in case this does stick to my fingers. I'm gonna just kind of go ahead and coat my hand a little bit with some oil. I'm gonna punch down the dough. Okay. Now, just kind of gonna get it all together. I will probably just put this out on the counter so you can see it. If I was doing this normally, I would just leave it in my bowl, but for video purposes, I'm gonna put it here on the counter. So you want to have a clean workspace, obviously, but for making rolls, what you're going to do is you're just going to take one side of the dough and sort of put it between your thumb and pointer finger and just squeeze. So that's going to pinch off the little bit that you need. So for the rolls in here, okay, so I just automatically went into doing this. For in here, I'm going to do some just a single and some with two little balls of dough, just so we can get a variety. So what you're going to do over here with your little ball of dough is you're going to put it on the counter, take your hand and cup it around the ball. Let me make sure you can see that. Yes, you can see that. So you're going to take your hand, cup it around the ball, and just roll back and forth. And what you're doing is you're sealing the edges, and it's just making a really tight ball of dough so that on the bottom you have your crease. Then you're just going to drop it down in there. So I'm going to do a few of those and try to get similar size rolls. Plop it in there. That one got a little bigger. So I just need to be mindful of that when I'm doing the next ones. And you are going to hear her in the background. Okay, so now for the other ones, I'm going to do an even smaller ball of dough. And I'm going to go ahead and squeeze off two of those. And these might be a little big. If they're a little big, pinch off some of the dough from the bottom. Okay, and then same thing. Roll it up. Roll the other one up. Oh, this one is even smaller. Roll it up, and then we're going to just put them in here side by side. So as you're pinching between your thumb and pointer finger, you'll sort of see the size. So just keep adjusting until you get the size that you need. And what this is also doing while it's helping seal in the dough, it's also getting rid of a lot of the air that was created inside. You'll see some bubbles forming on this dough. Okay. Roll it. And this is a very cheap cupcake pan. I probably wouldn't recommend it for bread making, but it was the first one that I grabbed out of the cabinet. And what I mean by that is this is a very thin-walled pan. So it's likely that the outside of my rolls, words are clearly hard today, the outside of the rolls is probably going to be a little dark. So let me grab a little bench scraper. Okay, so we've got 1, 2. So now I'm going to try for a little roll that has 3. So I just took one, the size that I knew I wanted, and I'm just going to roll that into 3. You can see right here, hopefully, there's a air bubble. So I'm just going to roll it a little more till I hear that. You'll hear sort of a little, actually, my microphone's up here. You probably didn't hear that. But you'll hear a little bit of the gases escaping. So I'm just going to put it together, pop it in there. Probably hear her playing in the background. And all of this is extra if you just want some rolls for dinner, or you do not care if they look anything special, do them like that. Or if you just don't have the time, do them like that. Everyone will be impressed that you made your own rolls for whatever occasion it is. I know everyone always loves them. every time we take them somewhere. And last time we actually took them somewhere and made the little, we did the flavored butters and made them in like little tiny rosettes. And people actually thought they were buttermints. So warn your guests that it is, in fact, butter and not buttermints if you do that. All right. I really like those, so I may actually, we'll see. I'll do some regular to put on the sheet pan just so we have some over there, and I'm going to do them about the same size as what I'm putting in the cupcake pan. And this is not sprayed or anything, it just has parchment. Roll, roll, roll. Okay. And I already sprayed those, so I really would rather put some dough in those because I don't want it to get super dark and stain my pan even more than it's already stained. So I might just have a little reject one. We'll see. Okay, and these are going to rise again before they get their final bake. So we will proof these back. I'll put mine back in the oven. Honestly, I was a little skeptical. Like I said, this is the first time I'm using the proofing setting. And when I put my arm in the oven, there was no heat. So I'm guessing it's just whatever heat is created from the light being on in the oven. So you could potentially just turn your oven light on and let it do its thing. All right, so here are our rolls. So it made 15-ish with a little to spare, and these may be a little big, we'll see once they get done proofing. So I'm going to put these in the oven to proof, and these should pretty much double in size. So keep an eye on them. Again, you don't want them to overproof. So I will be back, and then we will bake them at 325. Okay, so I just took these out of the oven while they were proofing. They have pretty much doubled in size. And you do want to be careful when transferring things from place to place when they've been proofing because you don't want to deflate them. So I'm going to put these in an oven at 325 and I'll come back once they're done and show you what to look for doneness and how long it took. Okay, these just came out of the oven, and these, I think because there were only 3 on this giant pan, they did get a little dark on bottom, and then these look perfect on the sides, even this little one. So I am going to show you the way that I kind of can tell that they're done, and I mean, obviously you can see the color. They're nicely golden brown, but also I'm going to take the microphone and put it down there. So if you tap on them, you can hear that they sound sort of hollow. So these are perfect. You could put them in like a little like a basket with a dish towel to make them look cute and cover them so that they stay nice and soft. Yeah, so these are done. Oh, I almost forgot. I do have a little bit of oil over here and a little brush. I'm just gonna brush the top with a little bit of oil so that so that they don't get super hard and tough. You could do this just with a paper towel if you wanted to as well. Just a light coating of oil. Nothing major. You can hear her asking for milk, even though I already gave her milk. All right. So, finish this last one. And those are all done. I hope you enjoyed this video. These are great, like I said, for any occasion and would be perfect with some honey or cinnamon butter as well. I almost forgot. I wanted to show you what the inside looked like of these. So I'm just going to take one of the little rolls. They look so good on the inside. Nice and delicate. So thanks for watching.